Cocoon Spawn Girls, Chapter 25. We keep on the move, never pausing to choose our route, just running forward, curving when we need to. 11 out of 20 minutes have passed, and we were nearly to the edge of Morrowsville. That was King's best plan. He told us our best chance was to leave town and continue going somewhere out into the surrounding forest area. It was better than just hiding inside a random business or home at least. We passed by the town's post office, and as we ran I watched a letter blowing across the street in the wind. These people really had evacuated quickly. Even the post office had picked up everything and ran. I feel bad that MGI made them uproot their lives in this sick ploy to kill us and boost some other girls' popularity. What should we do about getting our fix of chemical once we escape? Clarice pondered. I had felt bad to leave behind those 2 spawn we'd killed, but it wasn't really a good mealtime. King shook his head. We worry about that after we survive this current predicament. He whacked Clarice's head. Stay focused. There's more than one hunter who will be watching us right now. Just because they don't strike for another 8 minutes doesn't mean they can't watch us from where they are. Right, my bad. It's just there's so much to worry about. I mean, Tiki is... King cut her off. We will worry about that later. Clarice didn't argue. She became quiet and continued sprinting. I want to vouch for her. Tell her she was right, and I was worried about leaving Tiki too. I opened my bag and fidgeted with my board writing, but with my eyes off the path ahead, I did notice a small rock, and I tripped. I slid forward a little, coming to a stop using my knee. Oh my gosh, are you okay, Sophia? Clarice stopped and crouched over at my side, looking at me. I gave her a thumbs up. Nothing hurt. Guess I got lucky. Ah, you're bleeding. Clarice pointed to my knee I had used to stop myself. Indeed, it was pretty scraped up. Shoot. Forgot about Fool's Night being active. That'll teach me to add pants to my magical girl costume as well. Well, if I remember going to get one again. I'll be alright. Let's keep going. I held up. If you say so. Clarice bit her tongue, knowing we didn't have time to stop. I got back up, and we continued running towards the edge of town, till finally we could see the town line where the forest sprouted up. With only a few minutes to spare, it was perfect. By the time they came chasing, we would already be in the woods. We thrust forward towards the tree line, taking large steps as we ran. We must have kicked up some dust or something blew into my eye, making me slow down to wipe my eyes. Clarice made a similar sound to what I wanted to make. Girls! King spoke in a monotone voice. I wiped my eyes clean and opened them, expecting to see a wild animal or something among the trees. Instead, I did not see any trees, or any sign of the forest. Instead, I was looking at the post office. I looked at Clarice, who was already looking towards me as confused as I was. We passed here almost 10 minutes ago. We can't just suddenly be back here, can we? I pull out my board again. Can they teleport us? Clarice looked around at our surroundings. If they could, why would they only send us halfway back? Sophia! King spoke again. He extended his stub arm towards me. Look at your leg, would you? I peered down at my scraped leg, only to now notice it wasn't scraped. I quickly looked to the other leg to see if I maybe got the wrong leg. No, I didn't have any blood on me anywhere. Clarice crouched down and ran her finger along my leg, feeling for any light cuts or scrapes that could have been the one from before. This can't be. Surely it just looked worse than it was, Clarice murmured. We'd see some sign of it if it was, King said sternly. Girls, get inside the post office. We must rethink our strategy as well as our current predicament. But if we stop running now, maybe... Clarice was stopped again by King whacking her. We did as King instructed and ran into the post office, making ourselves at home in a back office past the sorting area. Okay, girls, what do we know about what just happened? Let's have an open discussion. King crossed his little arms. Clarice and I took seats on the floor, sitting with our feet up to our chests. Clarice spoke first. We're at a post office, when we were just at the woods. And my leg is suddenly healed, I held out. Right, King nodded. So how can we explain these two things? He rubbed a non-existing beard. Was everything after we passed the post office some sort of illusion? What? Like they make us think we are still running while we're really frozen here? Clarice questioned. Perhaps. It would mean Sophia never fell and scraped herself. It would also explain how we got back here so quickly, King proposed. But would their illusion be good enough to know I wouldn't feel pain due to Fool's Night? I flipped my board again. Perhaps it was an illusion based on our memories? Clarice added. Maybe it was real and they can just teleport and heal us, I proposed. King shrugged his little arms. But why? Why heal us when they're hunting us? He had a point. It probably wasn't their intention to heal me. What if, Clarice began, her eyes moving as she processed her own thoughts. What if they have the ability to reverse time? My eyes lit up. Was that sort of ability even possible? It would explain my scrape disappearing. And also why we are back at the post office. King nodded. Clarice stood up with new confidence. And assuming that Dawn from before has an ability to do those spawn things, that must mean that this is the work of the other half of her duo she mentioned. I scribbled on my board as quickly as I could to be part of the fast-moving conversation. So what we need to know now is how it works and how much control she has. King nodded. Let's assume she has to see us to affect us. We can also factor in that they didn't wait until the time was up for them to activate the ability. Instead, they seemed to do it the moment we left the town's limits. No prey has ever escaped them, Clarice murmured. She said that. Maybe that's how they keep their prey from escaping. But what about them? Are they also being set back 10 minutes? I asked. King sighed. We've got no way of knowing if they can target who is sent back, or if they just reverse time entirely. If we had maybe made some sort of mark on the building, we could see if it was still there in the event of another time jump. I got up. Using my marker, I drew a half-decent rabbit on the glass window of the office. Then I sat back down, giving them a thumbs up. Cute, Clarice approved with a slight blush. All the seriousness. It's nice to be able to have a little joy back in here. So what now? Do we hide here? Or try to go on the offensive? I'd like to say we should dig tunnels and bury ourselves until this blows over, King joked. But then again, they can reverse time before we dug the hole, and digging the same hole twice sounds annoying. That made me think of something. Hold on, have you considered what their hunting strategy is? Clarice tilted her head. King rocked side to side. I wiped my board and continued. You said wait until this blows over, but I don't think it ever does. I wiped my board again. You think they can't search for us forever, but really, they just have to find out where we were once, and then they can continue to send us back there. I don't follow, Clarice sighed. Like, if you broke the whole town into a grid, and every single day you searched just one, then you can reverse time and know for sure we weren't there. And they're trying to snuff us out of hiding by making us experience every timeline they try. That's a good point, King nodded. I mean, we'll go crazy if we have to relive the same day in this post office more than a week straight. What if it goes into months? Clarice shuddered. Such a cruel and unusual ability. I held my hand out, telling them to hold again. I believe they sent us back just now to try and convince us there's no point in leaving the town. They want us to face them. I wiped the board clean again. There's got to be limits to the range of them able to make us remember each loop. I mean, otherwise, we would know about some magical girl who could turn back time. Totally right, King nodded again. So our best bet is just to keep running, no matter how many times they send us back? Clarice asked to confirm. Even if we only end up getting a block closer, surely over enough time we'll end up outside the range, King agreed. The only issue is if we get noticed, they're going to be able to head in the right direction. It is imperative that they not get lucky, and they search many wrong areas before they get anywhere near here. King thought it over for a moment. I just worry that they'll just send us back in time before we came up with this plan. Now that we've paused for a moment, there will always be a time when we paused here. We can't really worry about that at this point, Clarice shrugged. We can run more immediately next time loop, if that helps at all. I think we need to keep trying to escape into the forest, but let's choose a different exit spot just in case, I wrote. The others nodded in agreement. We didn't really have any other choice but to try and escape the limits of this ability. It's the only way we don't have to end up fighting them. If they ever catch us, we'll have to worry about fighting then, but I really don't want to have to fight against a whole pack of those white spawn. We left the post office behind, returning to the open streets and booking it down the road, running towards the edge of town again. We curved our path, this time a little to avoid exiting the town at the exact spot in the same road. This time we headed down a suburban area and headed for what would be someone's backyard facing against the wooded area. After another 10 minutes we reached the end of a cul-de-sac and could see the backyard we wanted. We hopped a fence, I with ease, Clarice with more difficulty and panting. We made it to the tree line and ducked into the trees, dodging low-hanging branches. I was pleased we weren't sent back this time. We kept on running through the forest, zigzagging around thicker areas. There was a thick leaf cover above us, leaving the path dimly lit as we ran. We probably made it 5 minutes into the thickest of woods before suddenly we were in the streets of Marrowsville once again. "Damn it!" Clarice cursed, kicking her legs as she looked at where we were. I think this was a place we passed before we made it to the post office, so we've been sent back much further than before.
"I think this was about right on the money for where our 20 minutes would have been up. They sent us back 12 minutes, I think,"
King observed, taking in our surroundings. I get out my board. "Make a run for the post office to check?" I ask, referring to the bunny drawing I did to test if the building would turn back as well.
"Sure, it's in the right direction we want to head. There's no reason for us to think they even knew where we were, only that they could still reach us,"
King stated, listing out the facts. We ran down the road a few minutes until we reached the post office. Inside we checked and found no drawing to be found, confirming our situation.
"So it is indeed a full-on time reversal," King nodded. "And they're letting us remember the previous looks, probably to break our spirits."
"Back to running again?" I held up. "Best bet for the next few loops, they say. Maybe they won't reset us back to the same time again," Clarice said with a hopeful tone.
"A few feet at a time. I think we'll win this race," King cheered, throwing a small fist in the air. We returned our running down the street. We took the backyard path once again this time, as it hadn't proved ineffective last loop. We made it to the house, then into the backyard, dashing into the woods. Our zigzags continued as we had last time. We seemed to make it a few minutes further before we were sent back once again in the blink of an eye. "We're in the post office this time," Clarice observed. King placed a hand on his face. "I'm curious if they're sending us back random amounts of time to keep us from knowing their limits."
He shook his head.
"If only we could find a way to keep track of time, we'd be able to make better observations."
"I can count? Like in my mind, just counting the seconds," I offer via my board.
"If you can do that while keeping up, then it would be a great service to us,"
King smiled. "You can count on me," I held out with a grin. Then, before racing it, and I wrote, "But not this loop. I wasn't counting before." It made Clarice chuckle, which made me happy. King didn't seem to mind.
"From this point on, we shouldn't be stopping every loop to talk like this. Just immediately start running as fast as you can, and hold up your fingers to tell us how long we've made it."
I gave him a thumbs up, and we all exited the post office quickly to begin running again. I begin my count, counting each second as I keep pace with Clarice. I made sure to not get distracted by passing thoughts. My focus was entirely on keeping a good count while Clarice navigated us. We went to the house with the backyard again. Our time was getting better inside the woods, as we began to know where the low branches were, avoiding them better. We ended up making it 11 minutes and 15 seconds after leaving the post office before we were sent back. I immediately started the count over as we all began running. This time we were in the streets just after leaving the post office last time. From there we ran back to the house and into the woods. We made it 15 minutes and 40 seconds before being sent back again. I started the count again, and we began running. We were at the other end of the road, across from the house with the backyard. We were certainly getting closer. We followed the same path again, running into the backyard and into the woods. 8 minutes and 32 seconds before we were sent back once again. I restart my count and begin to run when I noticed Clarice wasn't running. I look up from my focused run and count to see we were back outside the department store from the very start. "This has got to be at least 25 minutes back," Clarice mumbled.
"They're really not playing fair here,"
King chuckled in a sad tone. We were right outside where this game of chase had begun. As such, we were well in the view of many white spawn, who stood atop the rooftops on neighboring buildings. All of them were looking down at us with those red orb faces. I really hope the 20-minute head start is also being reset. Before we can begin running, the sound of the door behind us opening makes us turn. Out from the doorway, Dawn, with a bright red eye across her mask, marches out looking at us. "Good to see you both again. It feels like it's been hours." She leaned back, making a large laughing motion. "But wait," she stopped. "It's only been a minute since I've seen you in reality. How odd is that?" Her mask made a shocked expression. "More like a dirty trick," Clarice mumbled back at her. "What was that?" She leaned her head towards us, making her mask show a sound setting being turned up. "I didn't hear that." Clarice grit her teeth. "I said this whole thing is a dirty trick. Why call this a hunt if you're really just shooting fish in a barrel?" Dawn's mask made a surprised eye that blinked confused. "Fish in barrel? Dirty trick? What else should a filthy, fallen magical girl expect?" I joined Clarice in glaring at her now. How could we possibly prove we weren't fallen? It's an unwinnable argument. Dawn continued her speech. I find it offensive you'd even think you could speak so rudely towards me. I am a true huntress in every sense of the word. I will not cage you and ruin the hunt in the slightest. She stood tall as she said this. However, we reserve the right to use our abilities as we see fit, and this is just part of the game, I'm afraid. Clarice growled. It seems as good as rigged in your favor. Dawn's mask glowed a bright purple, which made Clarice stutter to a stop. Run along now, girls. The hunt isn't over. You still have 17 minutes and some change remaining. Don't forget we gave you a 20-minute head start, silly prey. So they really are counting this as back when the time limit wasn't up. What an odd thing to do when they're fully conscious of it being up before they pulled us back. Clarice took off running before I realized, so I immediately dropped my train of thought to chase after her. They've got to be trying to see what route we head to cross large sections off the search area. We should head in a different exit this time, Clarice shouted, back to me as she ran. But changing the route also means we might end up encountering her partner or any station spawn. It's a gamble, King added in, matching her shouting. We've got to risk it, Clarice shouted with the full confidence of her chest. And so we took off down a new road, headed towards the edge of town. If we didn't waste any more time stopping, we'd have plenty of time to reach the edge of town. How far they let us go beyond is the real question. End of chapter 25.